Welcome to the new interview series of the German Council on Foreign Relations on events that shape the world of foreign policy. With me is András Rácz, Senior Fellow at DGAP's Security and Defense Program and an expert on the foreign policy of Russia and Belarus. We will talk about the role that the Belarusian Secret Service played in abducting Belarusian journalist/activist Roman Protasevich. Dear András, you have dealt with Secret Service operations before. Can you explain why the Secret Service opted for such a risky operation? I mean, hijacking a passenger plane with the help of a fighter jet, that's certainly no covert operation, is it?
It's not. One needs to understand, however, the very domestic political context in Belarus. We know already with considerable accuracy that the decision to capture Roman Protasevich was taken by President Alexander Lukashenko himself. And taking into account the very options and possibilities the Belarusians had at their disposal, they didn't really have many other options if they wanted to fulfill this order of Lukashenko. Here's a bit of background. Roman Protasevich left Belarus already last year. He was living in Lithuania. He had asylum from Lithuania. Moreover, he was also provided with personal protection from Lithuania because he has been threatened already a few times before. And at this point, for the Belarusian state, abducting Protasevich from Lithuania was clearly not an option. Had they tried, that probably couldn't have been done without considerable violence and an even bigger scandal. So from the very perspective of Belarus's most important secret service, the KGB, as surprising as it sounds, but if they wanted to fulfill the order of Lukashenko, this was the easiest option. Was this good? Not at all. Could they get away without getting noticed? Not at all either. But from their own perspective, because their main task is to fulfill the president's orders, actually this is what they did.
And I've used the word hijacking before, and many other in the Western media did as well. Was this illegal, what they did, up to the point when they abducted him?
This is a complicated question, and I myself, I'm not an air traffic lawyer. So here, these are only kind of outsider comments. However, as a starting point, it's important to clarify that in the airspace of a given country, the air traffic control of the given country is in charge. So Belarusian air traffic control, when the Belarusian air traffic control ordered the Ryanair flight to depart from its originally pre-agreed route and agreed in the flight plan and divert to Vilnius, claiming that there was an emergency, this was not outright illegal. However, there are a lot of question marks in the story. First and foremost, the claim of a bomb threat Belarusians had been referring to turned out to be false. Second, the very fact that Belarusian Air Force sent up a fighter jet armed with live air-to-air missiles. Moreover, the Ryanair flight was reportedly threatened by getting shot down unless it complies with the air traffic control regulations. This was clearly too much. This was clearly an unnecessary and unjustified level of violence used.
Okay, so we've definitely settled that the Belarusian Secret Service is capable of such an action within its own territory. What can you tell me about the capabilities of the Belarusian Secret Service outside of the country? I'm asking this because I've just learned in another interview that actually a lot of Belarusian activists have left the country and are operating from Warsaw or Berlin. So do you think these people are in danger in other countries?
It's just a personal remark. I'm not a Secret Service specialist, all right? And one more thing, it's in the name, Secret Service. Most of their operations are secret. Even if I knew these operations, I probably wouldn't be allowed to tell it. So here, as a researcher working from open sources, I obviously need to work with some methodological caveats. So this is important to clarify. Furthermore, inside Belarus, so on Belarusian territory, KGB is a very, very strong, well-equipped secret service. They have the resources, they have the personnel, they have the infrastructure, they have basically everything what they need. And they have the political support as well. From open sources, we know, particularly from the reports of Baltic secret services and counterintelligence services, that Belarusians tend to work with in very close cooperation with Russia's own intelligence services. When it comes to operations abroad, of course, it is a lot more complicated for even for the Belarusians to act on the territories of a NATO country. I'm not in the position to judge whether Belarusian activists in exile living in Lithuania or in Poland would be in danger or not. However, I think it's important to indicate that Lithuanian authorities decided to provide Protasevich with personal protection. I trust the expertise of Lithuanian colleagues. I'm quite convinced that this decision was not taken just by chance, but was based on well-grounded information.
And just now you've already touched a bit on Russia and a possible involvement. Do you think they were somehow involved, the Russian Secret Service or other authorities by Russia?
Certainly, yes. First and foremost, the air defenses of Russia and Belarus work in an integrated way. This does not mean that Russia could order Belarusian authorities to do something in their own Belarusian airspace, and particularly not vice versa. However, there is continuous well-functioning information exchange, and the radar systems, the air defense systems are interconnected. So Russia was surely aware of everything that was going on in Belarusian airspace. And what we said already about the close relations of Belarusian KGB with Russia's intelligence services, again, from open sources, one cannot reconstruct whether there was any coordination or not. But still, we have several examples from the past, several examples that are known from open sources that Belarusians often work in close coordination with the Russian services. Since last year's elections and all the scandals and violence that followed the falsified Belarusian presidential elections, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko could stay on power, could preserve his rule only with the help of Russia. And since then, Lukashenko is much more dependent on Russia's help than he was basically ever before. So since last year, Russia has more, even if not control, but more influence over the functioning of the Belarusian state than they had ever before, which is again a factor that may strengthen the assumption that Russian secret services, Russian intelligence services were aware of what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now we've talked about Belarus's neighbor to the east. Let's maybe now turn to its neighbor in the west, which is the European Union. What do you think the European Union could or should do now as an answer to this abduction?
The problem with this particular story, the risk, if you like, is that if this practice becomes common, namely that countries start taking out passenger airlines transiting in their airspace in order to arrest a passenger on board, this would endanger the very fundamental freedom of air traffic. So what happened is not only about Roman Protasevich. What happened is about the freedom and safety of air traffic in general. And that's why a swift and efficient reaction had to be given in order to demonstrate it not only to the Belarusians, but to every other authoritarian regime as well, that such a practice is unacceptable. And if you do anything like this, like what Belarus did, you have to face serious consequences, and you have to face those consequences immediately.
All right. I think this was a good wrap up of the situation and the information we have up until today. Of course, the German Council on Foreign Relations will continue to observe and analyze the situation. But for now, dear András Rácz, many thanks for answering my questions. And I hope that the things turn out maybe better than they seem right now.
Thank you for your interest. Goodbye.